Hello and welcome to A Perfect Match, a special edition of A Perfect Match. I'm Aysha, and we are talking about the later daters. We have a podcast where we talk about the show Married at First Sight, and we put out a push. We pushed. we put out a call. There we go.
There you go.
To see if people were interested in hearing our thoughts about the show The Later Daters that is on Netflix. It premiered in December, and everyone answered our call and said, yes, we do want to hear your thoughts and opinions. So I'm here with my co-host for A Perfect Match to talk about The Later Daters, someone who is
Asia, have
he's
you
in his
Asia, have you heard the podcast from Matthew McConaughey? Um, I just was listening to it and I found it very interesting. I just thought you'd want to know. I know you're speaking, but
what does that have to do with us?
no,
Like
I
this
mean,
right here.
I just thought it would be something interesting to lead with and to let you know. I know you were talking, and probably should have interrupted you, but I was so excited to tell you about this Matthew McConaughey podcast.
Okay.
But I guess you can keep talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot, since we are in this setting for the later daters, I have to put on my statement
Your Lori
glasses.
glasses.
Got to put on my statement glasses. Jason Reed. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing well, Asia. Yeah, we're here. We heard the cries of, "Are you guys going to cover later daters?" So we decided to incentivize our listeners for reviews. You guys came through clutch like you always do. So we're here. I think versus our usual fare of television, this is a much more hopeful side of reality TV show dating, which is not something we're typically used to. We're typically used to mess. Now there was some mess in here, which was good.
Yes.
But this is more of a wholesome, family friendly ish, except for some segments of talking about older people and sexual relations. Just call me Big Jason, Um, but yeah, this is an interesting little diversion into what we usually get into.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, if you're curious about what is The Later Daters, it's a show. Like I said at the beginning, it premiered on Netflix. It's produced by Michelle Obama, and there's one season out, and it followed six singles who are in their later days. I think everyone is 55 years old or older. I
Yeah.
guess technically 56 years or older, years older, and we're following their journeys in dating after after divorce, dating after kids. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Sorry, I will take off my Lori glasses. If you're listening to the audio only, I'll throw them back on when we talk about Lori,
It's
but
so
I just felt
distracting.
like,
It just takes over the conversation.
does it take over my
It
face?
just takes over it just blocks
Okay.
everything out. It's just all about the glasses when you have this on. Yeah.
Can't lose the glasses.
No. Can't do
No.
it. Won't do
No.
it. No.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do really enjoy these types of shows. Like if you've ever seen Love on the Spectrum, this gave me very much so Love on the Spectrum vibes in terms of we're following love stories at and we're meeting people where they are basically in life. And so Love on the Spectrum is such a feel good show to me. Now I'm going to be recommending the later daters to other people. Like if you want a good background show, you want a good just like there's love out there for somebody type
Yeah,
of show.
if you want to go a show where you go like, oh, that's so cute, that's so sweet. This is one of those shows for
So it
you.
wasn't for you?
No, I liked it. I enjoyed
Okay.
it. It was it was a fun little diversion to what we usually do. It's not something I'm looking for the mess, but I listen. As I say, I like love, but I love mess. But that first part is I like love, so I like
Yes.
people. And it wasn't just about dating. It was also about pushing through some of your traumas or triggers or boundaries and making yourself more open. So I enjoyed that kind of more of the exploring who they were as well. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a good part of the show too.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. Like if we just take the show for what it is, like even before we start talking about the people on the show, It was so easy to follow. I
Yeah.
love the cards that went up when we met someone new that showed this person
Mhm.
is 55 years old, twice divorced, 3 kids, and their job.
And it's like, they also kind of made the show for older people because they put in a lot of segments where we were reminding you of what's already happened. It's like, so just to remind everyone, I went on this date with this person. We see the little flashback. This date with this person. We see another flashback, and then this third date with this other person. Just to remind you where we are in the story. So those some
Right.
of you out there have older brains. The cognitive might not be where it once was.
Yeah, because I mean, most people probably watch this over a span of weeks. They're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Let me keep watching the later daters."
Mhm.
Whereas we binged it, you know.
Yeah,
So
we
we're
mentioned.
like,
Yeah,
why am I seeing this scene I saw 30 minutes ago?
exactly.
But I love it. It was so well produced.
Yeah,
um,
well, you did a great job. How involved do you think Michelle was? Like, honestly, because I mean, I think half of the reasoning to get her be an executive producer is so you can say this series was executive produced by Michelle Obama.
yeah, probably the beginning and the end.
You don't think she's
Hey,
behind the camera going, "That's a wrap on Pam, everyone. Great
right.
job."
Okay, Nate,
Yeah,
be more present in the date. Okay.
yeah. Action.
You're right. I no, I just thought it was really it was very digestible. It's such an easy watch. If you have not watched the later daters and you are just here because you're just listening to us podcast, I would highly recommend it. I mean, we're going to talk at a high level everything that happened, but it still is nice to kind of see how everything plays out, get all of the additional context. But before we go any further, make sure you go subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed. On that feed, we talk about the show Married at First Sight, which we are in the thick of season 18 right now. I think at this point, 13 episodes have podcasted about 13 episodes. So we're right in the middle of the season. There's 20 plus episodes of Married at First Sight to consume. So even if you hop on now, you have plenty to consume. If you've never seen Married at First Sight, the concept is that you meet your spouse at the altar for the very first time. You go through an 8-week experiment, and at the end, you decide if you want to stay married or get divorced. This season is a mess, but we are enjoying talking about it. So definitely go check it out. We also have Love is Blind coverage over on the Love at First Sight feed. We've covered, I think we've covered, seasons 2 through the most recent 6.
Seven coming up on 8, I think.
Oh, 2 through 7.
Yeah.
Season 8 premieres February 14th. So, of course, we will have that coverage here on Rhap Has a Podcast. We also have coverage of the show The Perfect Match that was on Netflix, as well as The Ultimatum. The Ultimatum just had season 3 that we just covered. So, that's over on the Love at First Sight feed as well. So, just subscribe to Love at First Sight feed wherever you get your podcast. Also, subscribe to the RHAP YouTube channel because we always have a video as well. And so you can see the people we're talking about and you can see our facial expressions and hand movements and everything else. Because when Jason and I started podcasting about Married at First Sight, like season 14, we weren't on video yet.
Yeah.
And we were just like, the people were like, what let's get a video. We want to see what's happening because we're like, oh, if y'all could just see, we would always say that.
I would imagine the experience is heightened greatly by seeing our facial expressions, like
Right.
just because we like to get animated, we like to act things out. So I think seeing that is really adds to the experience.
Yes, exactly. So we do love feedback on our Love at First Sight feed. So we will shout out a couple of 5-star ratings and reviews. That's how this podcast came to be because of our call for ratings and reviews. So we did get one from let's see. Sleepy 1982. It's titled I'm Here for Later Daters. 5-star review just says period.
Period. I don't know what
Period.
else y'all talk about. I just want later daters.
Yes.
I don't even listen to your podcast. I just heard that I can put a review for this podcast. You might get me later daters coverage. That's all I'm here for. All I want. Here we are. We're
We
giving it
also
to you.
Yeah, exactly. We also got a really nice one from FL Girly. I'm gonna assume that's Florida Girly. It says a perfect match to recap maths, and then it cuts off, but CR. Says, should I be thanking you or da da da? Crying laughing face. I found you from hearing you both on Taryn Armstrong's BB recaps. You mentioned maths, and unfortunately, I went down that rabbit hole. I started watching old seasons of maths, but only the ones you had recaps of. I watched an episode and then listened to your recaps. You both are real and hilarious with your takes on this silly show. I'm pretty sure I watch math so I can listen to your recap. I do have two questions. How did you do a serious interview with Pastor Cal without thinking about your creepy impersonations of him you've done in the past? Did you worry that he may have heard them? Guess I have to add later daters to my list.
Asia, what did you think of your Pascal impression and how Pascal was gonna react to that?
I had no concerns.
Yeah. Listen, I did think of it. I for sure was like, I had to stop myself several times from getting into the Pastor Cal impression while talking to Pastor Cal. I was sternly warned before this interview not to do the Pastor Cal impression by multiple people on the Rob Has a Podcast side of things. So it was tough. Luckily, I didn't really think he had ever heard it. I don't think he probably had ever heard of our podcast before that day, so I wasn't
Hey,
too
he
worried about it.
listens.
But yeah, I had to really restrain myself from number one, telling him about the impression, and number two, actually doing it in front of him. The one I'm going to do one of the reviews from. Let's see if I can find it again. From Molly Catherine G. It is entitled 5-Star Hosts. Love Asia and Jason. It's also been great to get Mari's perspective this season of Maths, and I love hearing Mary talk about the Netflix shows. Keep covering all the love shows for RHAP. Can't wait to hear about the later daters. Here we are. Later dater time.
Here we are.
Here we are.
All right, let's get into it. We had five fun
people in Greg.
We had 6 fun singles to follow. I really liked how they did this, where we had our focus. We introduced a bunch of potential people, or I guess not potential people, but a bunch of different people that they were dating. And we had one crossover between these singles, which was pretty cool. Yeah. But let's go ahead and talk about one of the stars of this season. I think that this later dater is probably... I think she probably is going to grow in Instagram. If she's on Instagram, like, I could imagine her having a good following after this. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Anise. Anise Patrice.
That's Anise Patricia.
Anise Patrice. I was like, why? He just could not get that down. That was hilarious. But shiver me tenders.
That's what I say every time I have some chicken tenders. Shiver me tenders.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Anise was so good that we're actually going to save her for last. So let's pivot.
Okay.
Let's talk about Nate.
Let's talk some Nate.
Okay. So now everyone's like, wait, what did you think about Anise? You'll find out. So Nate was 56 years. Well, I guess he was. This is filmed in the past.
Yeah.
So Nate is 56 years old. He has 2 daughters. He was married for 16 years. And he's an Omega. So shout out to Chappelle. Yeah. He is. We get presented that he is this like neat freak. He is like very particular about his living area. Like, it is very clean. Like, it's very tidy. But somebody who's with us this entire time of Nate's journey is his ex-girlfriend, Jackie.
Yeah, she is a constant presence throughout all of his segments. Yes. It's just like, so much so that the producers stop down and are like, hey, like, can we talk about what's going on with you two? Because you two, like, you have chemistry out the wazoo. Like, why aren't you two together? Which is interesting because let's talk about a little bit about Nate and Jackie's history, right? Jackie is Nate's first baby mama. Like, they were never married. They had one child. They met in college and had a baby like 3 weeks after they started hooking up. The plot twist here is that at the time, Jackie had told Nate that she was on birth control. Okay? So I guess Nate having that thought in his head is just shooting up the club, and it's like all good, right?
Oh.
Wrong. Jackie tells us that her version of birth control was the rhythm method.
Right. She said, guess I was off rhythm.
Which to me is like, that's not the same thing. So
She's like, he didn't confirm what type
yeah,
of birth
he should have
control he thought I
asked.
was on.
Which to me is like, Jackie, you're lucky. You're lucky you're even still in my life after that. Like after you basically kind of, I don't know, it trapped me into having a child in a way. I don't know. So that I think has something to do with them not really ever getting together. And they kind of explain it as just like, yeah, we've thought about it, we've talked about it, but we're just not each other's type. Just not each other's cup of tea.
See, I think with that whole college situation, and their daughter coming about, I think it wasn't a thing as like how you're feeling about it, because it wasn't like she saw Nate and was like, I need a baby by him. I need him in my life for the rest of my life.
Well,
It was more so.
she did say that when she was in college, she said she wanted a baby by 24. By the time she was 24 years old, and she was 23 at the time. So I don't know. I'm like, I don't know.
She said she wasn't, because in one of the later episodes, she was like, I wasn't really looking for nothing, and he wasn't either. And so we were both looking just to hook up.
She was looking for a baby, you know.
But I get it. Like, they're best friends. Mm-hmm. They neither one has the intent, because when they did bring it up, when the producer brought it up, and she was like, of course I've thought about it. I'm sure he's thought about it too. I'm like, that's a little strong. I believe that she may have considered it over these years, because it's like, you want to be with your best friend.
Yeah.
But in his mind, we can tell on like the dates he's going on, like he's looking for a certain feeling to have. And he's so comfortable with Jackie. Like, if you're watching Married at First Sight, if he could describe Jackie, he'd probably be like, that's the homie. Yeah. Like, that's how he behaves with Jackie, is like, yo, he's so comfortable with her, like joking with her. And then on these dates, he's just like, it's a new Nate.
Like, yeah, he's got his suave debonair on every date. Meanwhile, with Jackie, he's constantly ribbing her, and it's like, don't touch my house, don't touch my refrigerator.
What you doing in my fridge?
Don't talk to me like that. But all these dates, he's all prim and proper, trying to be a gentleman. But
where
with
my
Jackie,
flowers?
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot the flowers. Let me go back and get the flowers. But with Jackie, it's just a different vibe. Like, they're best friends. You can even say almost a brother and sister type of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they described it. Like, they go at each other like they're brother and sister. Which is, I'm like, to have like a sibling relationship, I wonder what's that like for their daughter?
I mean, I think it would it's better than having an acrimonious relationship. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, I'd rather my parents be cool with each other than fighting all the time. So
true.
Take what you can get.
Yeah, true.
And she probably knows nothing different, because they were never actually together. They've never been a couple.
True.
In her life, really.
And but then it's also kind of like, well, she knows them better than anyone, right? Like, she knows her parents. Mm-hmm. I wonder, has it ever been a situation where she's like, I wonder what it would be like if they did try. You know,
probably. Like, you think of probably all those scenarios when you're growing up like that. But it's like, do you think? I mean, I would assume we will probably get a Later Dater season 2, because I feel like this was a hit.
This was a hit for me.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see a Jackie on season 2 of Later Daters?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I guess if they were in college at the same time, she's probably in her late 50s as well.
Yeah.
It's very possible. It's very possible, because we really didn't get much about Jackie's love life. We don't know. She very well could be dating right now. Like,
I mean, if they're asking her if they're going to get together, like, I'd assume she's somewhat available.
You would assume.
Hey, maybe listen.
Because for all we know, they said, well, "What about y'all?" She's like, "I have a boyfriend.
I am married." Like, have you not seen my left hand? no rock on. What are y'all talking about?
Right.
But I think that'll be interesting. But this is kind of a location-based show because everyone was in Atlanta. So I wonder if this is
Yeah.
kind of like a Love Is Blind situation. We have to move to a different state or a different city and do it there.
Oh, right.
I thought it
Yeah.
was very interesting that besides Nate and Anise, which we'll talk about, that there's no meetup of the later daters. Like, would you have liked a reunion type show for all the later daters to get on one stage and talk?
There's not
And
enough drama for that. What's
I
the
mean, I don't
point?
think we need a drama for it. I just think it would be funny to see like Anise and Lori, vibe off each other. A Nate and Anise to see each other again.
I don't know. I just feel like what would we get from that?
I mean,
They
it'd be
probably
fun.
did. I could see them doing like a reunion on like what's it called to them?
Oh, to them,
The
yeah,
net
the
yeah
Netflix
the
thing, yeah.
Netflix site like a 3-minute YouTube like if it's just the ladies or just Nate and Greg,
Nate and Greg.
just talking about their experience. But I feel like their experiences are so siloed. I mean, of course, outside of Anise and Nate crossover, I don't know. It just I don't know if I would get much out of that. But
Okay, just shoot me down. That's fine.
hard no. No.
Yeah, no way. I turn
But
off the
yeah.
TV before I watch that.
Last point on Jackie and Nate is just like I think it is healthy that they have this dynamic because it's good for someone like Nate to have a woman that he can bounce ideas off of, get advice from, just a platonic relationship. Like my parents aren't together, but they're best friends. And it's like
Ooh, oh, season 2. Are we getting Mama Welch on Later Daters season 2? Would she do it? Text her right now and ask her if
is
she
she
would do Later
old
Daters
enough?
season 2. Text her right now and ask her if she would do Later Daters season 2.
Okay, we'll have an
I
answer
would
by
ask my mother, who is also single, but she does not watch reality TV, so she had no idea what I was talking about.
my mom actually was watching Later Daters the
Oh,
last
I
time I
know
visited her, and
your mom's a big reality
I
TV
was like,
fan. We
"Oh,
know.
I might watch it in the future, so I'm not gonna pay
No
attention."
spoilers.
Okay, I'll stay tuned for an answer from my mom.
Oh my god,
She is of age now that I've thought about it.
I would pay an extra subscription fee to see Mama Welch on Later Daters season 2 on Netflix.
Yeah. And I would be right there. Mom, how do you use text message?
Do you know what emojis are?
Right.
How do you spell you in text messages? Do you say YOU or just the letter U?
Right. So overall, we get to see Nate date 3 women.
4, right?
Four women. So the first one was Latricia.
Oh my!
He
You
threw
just
me
like
off.
Nate. You just like Nate.
I know. Leticia.
Latricia.
Latricia. Latice.
Lattice. No, that can't be right. Lettuce? Why is she named after vegetable?
Latricia.
Lactation?
And she is one of those women like, get my name right or don't get it at all.
This is not my fault that your parent named you something that's uncommon.
I know, because at least for me, I can always say like the continent.
That's like people telling me to spell Asia correctly. And I'd be like, ASIA. And you'd be like, no, that's not correct.
Right.
My name.
No, yeah. So that's one of those things that she's gonna always have to defend her name.
Like,
but
I can't spell it or say it. Like, what? Latricia.
Latricia. So she was 56, never been married, no kids. She's a senior IT professional. I said,
hey,
that's what I am.
Aysha, I saw you in so many of these women. I gotta say, like every woman on this show, I was like, that's Aysha in like 30 years. Boom. Everybody.
Lori and knowing everybody.
Yep. Anise, bougie as hell. Rich. Aysha, right there. Boom.
So maybe
Suzanne getting drunk all the time on boom, Aysha.
Maybe I was just like a successful older Atlanta woman in my past life.
I mean, your current life, maybe just gotta move to Atlanta.
But this date overall, like she she was into it. Like she approached dating similar to how we would at this age. Like, hey, I know what I want and I'm looking for that in you. And so as he said everything, she's like, check, check, check. Oh my gosh.
And to say it out loud like that, to be
Yes.
like, ooh, air check, like you got it all, air check. And then for him to lay the trap and be like,
Oh,
do you pray? She's like, do I pray? Air
air
check.
check.
She's like, I love God. He's like, God. I said about no God. I just asked you pray.
I said, wait a second. You cannot. How on earth are you going to blame her for assuming when you said, wait a second, let me pray before this meal?
Bruh.
Like,
he threw the trap out there. He's like, all right, come on, you gonna fall for it or not? I threw the God thing out there. You gotta fall for it. Bam, she fell for it. Like he says, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I was like,
and
sir.
doesn't that just require a conversation? Like,
yeah, but he doesn't want to have one. He's like, nope.
he said,
done.
no, hard no.
Done.
Literally, he was so attracted to her. That was the only thing. Like he thought that she was like successful. Like he liked her.
Yeah.
And all because she assumed that he was a God-fearing man. He said, oh,
done. and that's a common theme throughout the series, is that these people are so picky that they have to, like, the dating coach Logan, who kind of has to tell everybody, like, you can't be this picky. You have to, like, let some things go. And that's
she
like
felt like a broken record. Every conversation with every person. Hey, seriously, that's your deal breaker?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? Because these people are in their upper ages, right? And a lot of those people are very, very set in their ways. Hell, nowadays, people in their 20s and 30s are set in their ways. Imagine if you've been living your life for 50 something years one way.
Exactly.
And especially since if you're older, you're like, I don't have much time left on this earth. I'm not going to be giving up any deal breakers. Like, I want what I want, when I want it, and how I want it.
Yes.
And that's not a great way to be thinking diving into the dating pool, which is probably, I don't know, I haven't dated anyone besides my wife in like 20 or so years. I don't know. Aysha, you'd be no better than I would. It's got to be even harder now to dive into a dating pool that has so many options in it.
Yes. I mean, it's twofold. Yes, there are so many options, but that makes it makes it harder to find quality.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, okay, am I willing to put myself out there to weed through everything in order to find the unicorn, or just not do it at all?
Especially with someone like Nate, who has the attitude of like, well, this person doesn't have what I want. I'm sure I can find someone else that has something that I want better.
Yeah.
So he's willing to just like chuck someone that has like 95% of what he wants, and not that 5%, to find the better thing. I think even Logan mentions that, like, he's looking for perfection. He's looking for unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
Which is going to hamper him from finding anybody ever.
Right. Because he's comfortable. I also wondered that about a lot of these people, is like, would they be okay being single for the rest of their life? They all are very, I'd say we don't know much about Greg, but with everybody else, they seem very happy in their lives.
Listen, they're all accomplished. They all have money. Like I thought
love the house. I said, can we actually get a tour of some of these houses?
Yeah, like they all seem to be very like Asia level, like rich, right? Like, so no one's hurting for money or anything else. I thought it'd be interesting to see how like regular people would do with this, right? It's just like these people just like part of the 1%ers, but that's beside the point. But Nate just seems like he's ready to chuck someone for the littlest thing.
Yeah, because I was like, wow, he got it with the first try. They both didn't drink. They both were in the army. They both like weren't club people. He loved shoes, wearing heels and stuff. So I was like, that set the tone for us to know how particular Nate was going to be. So I was like, well, she'll find somebody who values her, which is interesting too, because I wonder what it's like if we had followed her. I wonder what it is for her that's the hang up, because she's 56 and hasn't been married.
I did kind of wonder if they're following a bunch of these people. Are they doing the same things for these people they're doing for our starting 6, if you want to call it that? And these are just the 6 that made the cut. Like in Love Is Blind,
that would be way too many resources.
Yeah, that's true. Like in Love Is Blind, a lot of different actual people that get engaged, but you only follow a certain amount.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if that was the case here, but like I said, they probably that would require like 20 production teams, which I'm
Yeah.
sure they're not going to be
See,
doing.
and the only reason I didn't think that is because on Love on the Spectrum, they do the same thing. Like they follow a
Mhm.
specific amount of people, and then they bring in
They bring
people
in
to
people.
date,
Yeah.
or they'll cross over some people. Like some people we've been following, then they have a date.
Yeah.
Which is like what we saw with Nate. So Nate does get a date with Anise, who we'll talk more in detail about later. But Anise is older than Nate, and he's never dated older.
Nope.
So
And it
there's a
seems unwilling to date older.
unwilling to date older. Yeah.
Unwilling to say older, even if it's someone like Anise, who looks
Yes.
younger than he is. But she's a fine 62. Let me tell you that. Um, like even someone that is as fine as Anise, just that age number is just like nope. It's like a deal breaker for Nate. It's like a no way for him right off rip.
Right. Yeah, 6 years. A 6-year age difference, which really in hindsight isn't that bad, but
I mean,
he's like
I have a 6-year age difference with my wife, so
exactly. I couldn't
yeah.
remember if it was 6 or 9, so I wasn't going to call it out.
Oh,
But thank you.
it's 6. It's not 9.
You're like,
Six
whoa.
six is enough. Let me tell you. I know I just said it wasn't that big a deal, but sometimes it's a big deal.
That just means you're mature for your age.
That's very true. I've been told
Uh,
that.
so when I just knew this was going to be a miss. I didn't think that they were going to hit it off or anything.
And
He was simply attracted to her, but that was
I
it.
don't want to clown Nate, but Nate seems like the type of person that might be a little intimidated
Mhm.
by an Anise, right?
Mhm.
Like again, a lot of people came here from Married at First Sight, so like Nate strikes me as sort of an Akechi, which is not the only person that will strike me as an Akechi type in this thing we'll be
Yeah.
talking about. That if he felt a little emasculated by someone that has accomplished more than him, he might have a problem with it.
Yeah, exactly. Um and what what's interesting is that wasn't even the hang up with them. The hang up for
Mhm.
her was that she's a very active woman. She walks 8 miles 5 times a week, 5 days a week.
And you
And
can tell the work has paid off. Let me tell you, with Anise, okay, with Anise
um
Patrice, the work has paid off.
so yeah. So her thing was like he couldn't do like he doesn't do active stuff, and so she's like that's a huge part of her life.
She was like, "So you're not active?" He's like, "No." She's like, "Oh no, like
Yeah. Uh,
that's terrible for you."
yeah. Wow. Well, this was nice.
Yeah, gotta go. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for the flowers.
Yeah. So Nate does have a third date with Lisa.
Woo! Boy,
So this is why you love this show.
boy, oh God, Lisa came walking in. I was like, what? I was like, Nate, what? Lisa. Woo!
Lisa was a very beautiful woman. She did
Very
not
beautiful.
look 56
Not at all. Not a
by,
little bit.
by any means. She's divorced, 2 kids, and she's been single for 2 years. Her kids are 31 and 34.
And still live at home.
Yes.
That was,
I thought that was the deal breaker for Nate. Like he
yeah,
thought
for sure.
he was all in on Lisa, and as soon as she said, "Yeah, my kid," because he was like, "Yeah, like I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna be the type of person where I'm like my kids live with me. Like no, hard no, never." She's like, "Well, actually,
That
my
was
kids live with me."
that was almost like it was written, right?
Yeah.
It's like I forgot how they even got on the topic. He's like, yeah, my daughter, she went to the Air Force and then she flunked out of that, and then she wanted to come live at home. We were like, nah, like I'm not gonna have my child living at home with me when they're all grown up. And then you got Lisa like in the littlest voice, like, my children live with me. They're 34 and 31.
Yeah.
But listen, I can't say that I blame Nate for that because I feel like I would be in the same boat of like I don't know if I want your kids around all the time, like your
But I feel
grown
like he's
kids.
jumping the gun a little bit because you've jumped to y'all living together.
I don't even think he jumped to living together. I think he jumped to like they're going to be around all the time. Like if I'm coming to go pick
Mm.
her up from her house, I'm gonna have to deal with it. I'm gonna have to talk to her kids. I'm gonna have to deal with them.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to deal with
such a
their probably
drag.
their yeah. I'm probably gonna have to deal with their opinions because they're gonna be around their mother all the time, talking about me. He probably has that type of thought, which I don't really blame him. I don't know if I would be like all for that. Like especially someone like 50 something years old, you don't really want to. I don't really want to deal with somebody else's kids, except for like holidays and like the occasional whatevers. But
Yeah,
so I don't really blame him for this.
I feel like, and I do feel like if it, I think the reasoning why the reasoning she explained didn't help at all with
No,
his because she just said they live with her because she's too soft.
yeah,
So that kind of like helps paint the picture of like her and other environments.
yeah. And if things did get serious between them, he would be like this like weird stepfather figure. Like they
Yeah,
probably
like wait,
they
now
probably
I
have
have
no.
to discipline.
Yeah, they probably have no discipline. He'd have to come in and try and give these 30 something year olds discipline. Like that's not what we should be doing at our big ages. At our big ages, our kids are supposed to be gone. Like we're not supposed to be dealing with this type of stuff. So I think that's probably why he had the yellow flag there. But I
Yeah,
mean, we'll
but he
find
was
out.
like,
Yeah, he had to overcome the beautifulness and be like, I know she's beautiful, hot, but I can't do that. Like even
yeah,
that was enough for him to be like, no way, totally out because she is one of his choices. He's at the end, he has to make a choice, and Lisa is one of the choices. So even the kids thing is like, yeah, but she's so freaking hot. Like maybe I could deal with it. I don't know.
he said maybe let me just circle the block.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not that big of a deal.
it could be worth it. It could be.
Right. One thing that shocked me about her was like she's been married she was married 33 years.
Yeah.
I was like, that is wild. That is a
Some of
long
these
time. And
some of these
even
stats were interesting for some of these
yes.
people. Like, I think we had someone that was divorced 3 times. Like, we had
Mm-hmm.
multiple people divorced twice. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think this is gonna work?
The thing that fascinated me was a lot of them, the amount of time they had been single. So like
Yeah.
14 years single, 8 years single. And so that was very interesting because I was like, wow, like even with Lisa, she's been 2 years single, but when he came back to her 3 weeks later when it didn't work out with the next person we're going to talk about, he was like she said, "Oh shoot, sorry, I'm in a relationship."
Yeah, you lost out, buddy. You lost your chance.
It's like, "Wait, where did you meet that
I mean,
guy?"
listen. Lisa, I feel like Lisa can't go like 2 feet down the block without getting propositions. So,
He's been single for 2 years.
I mean, what constitutes as single though? Like,
True.
you know.
I don't know. I don't know. I think if like it doesn't work out with this guy, I don't think she can. Well, maybe once you've been married, you define single differently.
Yeah, I mean, single might be like we're not calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend, but
Unmarried.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not serious, but she goes out probably. She goes out on
Yeah.
dates.
Well, lastly, he had a date with Michelle, who he got along with really well. She was 55. She'd been divorced twice. She's been single for 8 years. She does have 3 kids, but their banter was good.
Yep.
It was playful. They were flirty. And she was the one that he ended up having 2 dates with. But everything went crashing and burning when she said, well, what if I like put my clothes on and have outfits everywhere when I'm getting dressed? He said, oh, at your house.
listen, Michelle. Michelle was pushing it too. He was like, well, that's fine at your house. And she's like, no, what if I'm at your house and I put my stuff all over the place? She's like, well,
He said, no.
that wouldn't be that we wouldn't be able to do that.
He's like,
And
actually.
yeah, according to him later, that was the reasoning for
Yeah,
the
that was
breakup.
it. Yeah, that's all he needed. He said, I couldn't see long term with her.
Nope, can't do it.
She doesn't seem too tidy. So yeah, I mean, so you have updates on people, and I chose not to ask you so I can find them out live on the pod. Do you have an update on him?
Yeah, I mean, his update is basically he's not even trying to date right now. He is not
Mm-hmm.
actively dating. He's just being single as a Pringle. He says if
Okay.
something natural and organic pops up, he would be open to it, but he's not actively seeking it.
Okay.
What do you think of his of how? Because one of his big lessons was to be open and vulnerable, and to talk about his army experience and the injury that affects his physical well being.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like most of our people had one life lesson to learn, and this was his, is to be open about it.
Be
He was
yeah,
he was so open. He talked about it like at
every
every date.
day.
He's like,
Yeah,
by the way,
that his army experience was Suzanne's Matthew McConaughey.
yeah,
And I think it was like it did help him get practice in being vulnerable and explaining how that has impacted his life. And I feel like it went across the best with Lisa. Lisa
mhm,
did seem the most like I guess empathetic, and like it seemed like he was most comfortable opening up to her about it. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that it seems like that was his whole reason, or like that was the one thing he got out of this, was
yeah.
now going into the next date or whatever, he will be more comfortable explaining that situation.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was a good life lesson for him to learn, I guess. Like
Yeah.
if these life lessons will stick with them outside of this show. Like he's just like,
Yeah.
you know what? Nah, I probably won't be that open anymore.
And it's funny because like even though he explained it on every date, we learned more and more
Yeah,
like with each date. I'm
exactly.
like, oh, okay. I didn't know y'all were like you when you fell, like you landed on your back. Like, but we
Right.
didn't find that out until the third person.
You got more. I do think it was interesting they gave, I think I want to say 3 out of the 4 had some type of military experience, if not being
Hmm.
in the military themselves, where they were military brats, meaning their parents are military. So I thought that was maybe like a intentional thing on the part of the show to like pair him with some military oriented folks, so maybe they can understand his experience a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So good luck to Nate. It was fun watching your story.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
So next, who are we gonna talk about?
Let's talk. Look, if you blinked, you might have missed him. Let's talk about Greg. Greg, who wasn't introduced until like episode 6. So, like, a good percentage of the way through the show. He's been divorced 2 years. He was married twice, I believe. Married twice and divorced twice. He's been single 2 years. He has a construction business. So that's his big thing. He does have, most of our people in the show, which I thought was a very smart thing to do, is to really give them kind of a family member or friend to kind of help guide them through the
Like a
process.
confidant.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a great touch to add that. So Greg had his 2 kids. He has what were their names? They were Ryan and Kevin. No, Kyle and Kevin. One of which has cerebral palsy. So that was Greg's thing. He's got his 2 kids with him along for this. He says, he's on the apps a lot, but he gets ghosted. He doesn't. You can't tell who's fake, who's real. It's all
Yeah.
kind of become like a negative experience for Greg. So he's done with that. He's F this guy. Greg is not the oldest guy we have, I don't think, but he acts the oldest
Right.
of our people.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's the oldest guy of the 6,
Uh,
but we did have there was a Dwight was 70 who
yes,
Suzanne went
yeah,
on a date
yeah.
with.
So yeah, we meet with Logan, the dating coach. What do you think of Logan, the dating coach?
Oh, overall, I thought she was helpful. I thought she was not afraid to call people out on like what she observed that was the issue. Like observed was the issue. I felt like they were very open to hearing her feedback too, because
Yeah.
there were a lot of people that had to make changes based on what she was telling them. Him being one of them.
Mhm.
Um,
For sure.
Him, we had Nate, we had Lori. Um, but I think a lot of we can get to it, but a lot of Lori's was more so understanding who Lori was
Yeah.
as a person. But yeah, I felt like she was really helpful for Greg to just kind of like break down a little bit of the walls and be more forgiving about things about people.
Yeah, he kind of takes us through his marriage history. He was married once, and as the mother of his 2 kids, but the cerebral palsy of it all kind of made that marriage suffer and break down. He then married someone else. They had a blended family of 7 kids. That was stressful. So that kind of took part in the reasoning for the breakup. Logan asked him, what is your what is your type? Like what are you looking for? This man says, I'm looking for someone like you know, Penelope Cruz, Jennifer Aniston, because those come around all the time, right? They're everywhere. It's like she needs, and she needs to be fit, of course. And Logan's like, well, let's
She's like,
bring,
"What is fit?"
yeah, what is your definition of fit? And because I mean, Greg, is what you're rocking the definition of fit right now? Are you looking for equal fitness, or are you looking for more fit than you, sir? Because Logan's like, well, you're gonna need to kind of uh meet people where they are, right? Like even if you look at them and it's not love at first sight, be open to someone that is maybe not what exactly your type you're looking for at first. Great advice, because I mean, listen, you're not going to
Yeah.
stumble across a Jennifer Aniston and Penelope Cruz. His first date is Kelly, 59. She's been divorced 11 years, single. She has 4 kids. She's a dental hygienist, and I feel like this is like a good compromise for you, Greg. Like for people in your age bracket, this is probably as close to Jennifer Aniston and Penelope Cruz you're gonna get. Like I thought they knocked out the park with this first one.
They did. I think everyone would have thought that Greg was like, oh, this is somebody I want to like physically. Yes. So now we just have to see if we, are we on the same page? Like, do we have chemistry? Do we have things in common?
Yeah. So they go on a date water skiing. Turns out Kelly and her family are pro water skiers. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I had even forgot water skiing was a thing until I saw it on this episode of this television show. I was like, oh yeah, water skiing is a thing people do. She goes out there, she kills the water skiing. Greg goes out there, not so much. They have champagne on the boat after water skiing. Everything seems to be going well, right? Like they kind of hit it off. Looks like everything went well. But then we hear from Greg, she lives in the Atlanta metro area, about an hour away from me. So that's going to be a no. Like
that's a hard no.
He cuts it only for that reason, solely for the reason she lives an hour out of the way. It would take him an hour to get to her. He doesn't like traffic. Like classic old man stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not gonna do that traffic.
I'm not gonna go through traffic to go date somebody. I'm not gonna do that. Over, done.
Logan's like, don't you think like if that's the only thing, then maybe like you shouldn't be so hard. He's like, no.
He's saying 10 toes down. It's like, nah, I'm not going to compromise on this at all. Not going to do it. We get the second date. I did not catch the name of the second date. Would you catch the name of her?
It was Sherry. She was 60.
Mm-hmm. Sherry, she's been divorced 2 times, I think. 13 years. 3. She's been divorced. This is our 3-time divorcer. 3 times divorced. Single, 13 years, 2 kids, a VP of sales in motorsports, whatever that means. So Sherry, this date was very they seemed to be bored at a certain point because they got together. The small talk was not small talking. They go over their family histories. Sherry has adopted 2 daughters, a 21-year-old from Guatemala, a 17-year-old from Ethiopia. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Other than that,
who I would have loved to see Sherry with?
Who's that?
The first guy that Pam went on a date with. The guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You think they would have hit off?
They would have matched each other intellectually. Like Sherry was giving smart to me. Very smart. Like someone who just wants to be stimulated intellectually. And it just was like he was not giving in this conversation.
He could not keep up with the conversation. It was just there was awkward silences. So that was a really tough, tough date. So yeah, apparently he thought enough of the date to try and extend things with Sherry, but Sherry was seemingly just too busy for him. So they really kind of went to the wayside. We look at Greg's dating profile online. Logan gives him some pointers to improve his profile, and then we're just like done with Greg. I was like, so is this it? Like we're just throwing him back to the wolves?
I mean, I thought it was very interesting to hear that he wanted to go back to Kelly. Like he realized, he realized like, oh, I made a mistake. Kelly said, oh, I'm actually in the early stages of talking to someone else.
I mean, these old people, they move fast. Like they like you didn't want me to on to the next.
I have a 2-week period. I'm going on dates. Yeah. Whoever sticks is gonna stick.
Yeah, like you gotta move fast with these people, man, because they'll go on to the next one in no time. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he was just like, I ditched Kelly too quickly. I should have been more open. Maybe she would be down for moving. It's like, like you said, he tried. She's like, nope, I am moving on to the next one. So
Yeah.
that was Greg.
Can't
Like,
blame her.
can't be surprised when he gets introduced in episode 6, where we did not get much from Greg at all.
Yeah, they did. I mean, honestly, like they just did not have a much content to get
No.
out of him. Um, let's move on to
The one, the only, the
the
queen,
one, the only
rich Auntie Lori.
rich Auntie Lori.
Man, she is. I mean, listen, most of our people are stars. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think, I think Lori, Anise, and Suzanne, give them shows of their own. I would watch.
I would follow.
Especially you give Anise and her daughter a show. Oh my gosh, that would be a
Oh.
hit and a half. But yeah, Lori is a character, and she's 2 times a character.
Yeah. Lori is so we get introduced to Lori like a couple episodes in. She's 57. She's been married and divorced. She's been single for 15 years. She has 2 kids, and she's like so she's a behavior coach at a school, but then she's also a media coordinator for like ATL something.
She's like celebrity, like a celebrity interviewer or something, like for this whatever magazine or
Yeah.
whatever website.
And you know what's funny? She was giving that. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, she seems famous.
Yeah, I mean, she
Like,
has that personality.
yeah, she does. Like, and somebody who doesn't talk, like, was it doesn't meet a stranger? That saying?
Mhm, yeah,
Yeah. So,
I've heard that
uh,
said about you, so that makes a ton of sense.
so she said, one thing that was interesting to me is that, like, yeah, she has been divorced, but she said she can't say she's ever been in love.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Okay, Lori. That is very interesting. And we learn about her kids who are both introverted, and Logan thinks that's a very interesting thing because she's like, they have such an outgoing mom. And for them to both be introverted, she wonders, is that like that dynamic a thing?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of learned that Lori's outsized personality kind of caused her kids to shrink, because like we had this conversation with them, like, yeah, I didn't speak much because my mother spoke for me all the
Yeah.
time. It's just like, yeah, I can see how that can be overbearing, how that can be kind of like stunt your kind of social growth if your mother is the one out there in front all the time.
Yeah. She's also a Delta. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get a date with her and Nate.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't happen. She's 57.
Hey, that fits his parameters, right?
Yeah. He'd probably be like, I can't do older.
I know she's
1
just a
year.
year older, but
Yeah. So Lori really just has her stuff together. And so even before we meet any guys, I was like, Lori needs somebody that's confident and like has his own confidence about him. We do learn.
I mean, Lori, not me. And Lori needs someone that's just has her stuff together. It's not intimidated by a strong woman, that will see me. I mean, Lori, for the great person she is.
Lori is a great woman. Okay.
Lori is fantastic. Lori is so great.
Her
I love
house is
podcasts with
huge.
Lori.
So we did get to, so before we even introduced to these 2 guys that she went on dates with, we learned that there's a guy named Felton who Lori likes, but she doesn't know what the vibes are. She's like, he'll be in her DMs, but she don't know if he likes her or not. And so she's just kind of like, I don't know how to read it. So since he's not being clear, I'm gonna go on these other dates.
Mm-hmm.
So Logan, the dating coach, is kind of like, okay, I can help with everything. So the first date she goes on with this man named Ty, who I thought that she was very clearly out of his league. Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, he's like, I mean, anyone kind of seems like a wilting flower in comparison to Lori. And listen, this is Lori's first blind date in this process. So she came in hot because she hasn't yet gotten the memo to not be an airport, but to be a home. So she is coming out the gate firing shots. What about this? Do you do this? What do you do for this? Do this. And Ty just like, whoa, Ty is taken off guard immediately.
But he loved it. He said,
Yeah.
"Oh, she was on me. I love that." He said,
And she calls him out for looking at her feet. Like, I saw you looking at my feet when I walked in.
He said the first thing he did when she walked in was look down at her feet. And he's like, "Oh, you got your toes done." She's like, "Yeah, you should always have your toes done," is what she said. But the one big thing for her with him, it wasn't the fact that he had a foot fetish. It wasn't the fact that he said he was a narcissist in his past. It was the fact that he had on a blazer and like a blue button down, but he had the top button unbuttoned so you could see his white undershirt. She hated it.
She tore him apart for that. She's like, what is this? A white undershirt? Why would you do this?
Why would you have that white shirt on? Invisible? She did not. That made her, that single-handedly made her think he had no style, he had no sense of fashion, and he needed to just hang it up.
Well, let's talk about the cherry on top, which is when he put his number in her phone.
Yes.
She recognized the number because she already had it saved. She had his name in Ty POF. As in Plenty of Fish. Or were you a fisher on Plenty of Fish, Asia?
I downloaded it once like 10 years ago and then got immediately off because it's just it's like a infestation of too many profiles and people can just like you and it's like whoa, we're the bound, like I hated it.
Off-season podcast, Asia's ratings of different dating sites.
I was on it for a singular day.
How many 35-star reviews to get the podcast about Asia's rating of dating sites?
I do not consent.
And the pros and cons of the dating sites.
I do not consent.
But yeah, so she has his number. She's like, okay, I gotta figure out why we stopped talking. What happened? Did you go?
She's like, yeah, because if I have your number, there was a reason we stopped talking, which she has a point.
Oh yeah.
You may not remember all the conversations or whatever, or why it fell off, but it fell off for a reason.
Yeah, you gotta look through that history of chats or whatever. I don't know. He seemed busted. He was just like, oh crap, I thought she wasn't gonna find that.
Yeah, he knew. He recognized her.
How can you not see Lori and not remember Lori? You can't forget Lori, okay? But after all this, after she like interrogated him, she did this and that, he was still like,
he was all about it.
I'm with it. She with it, you know.
You know what it reminded me of for our Married at First Sight listeners? Justin and Alexis, how they had already seen each other on a dating app.
I was thinking about that as we were talking. I was like, there's some other situation where we came up with this. I could not think of it. You hit it on the head. Justin and Alexis. Yes.
Oh, that was hilarious. So yeah, the fact that she already had his number saved, it was kind of like that alone is kind of like a red flag. Like but it was from 2017.
2017.
Like, I mean, if they filmed this last year, that's 7 years.
Lori has been in the game for a minute, y'all. She's been around.
She's been single for 15 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, damn, you still have his number saved. You don't go through your phone book at all and start deleting people.
I don't. I have. You want to know how many contacts I have?
Oh my god!
Can't even recognize my face because these glasses. But I have 1,319 contacts.
Oh my god! All right, I'm sure my number is going to pale in comparison. But let's see.
You just scroll all the way to the bottom.
I had 81.
As in 81 people?
And probably half of these I could erase and not even worry about it at all.
I mean, could it use a cleanup? Yes. Like there are people in here like that are just if you're just a first name on my phone, I knew you high school or before. So I need to delete because like I probably don't know where I know you from if it's just, Hank. I don't know.
Do you have any first names, POF or Tinder or whatever?
So I utilize the description in
Uh-huh.
iPhone. So I like anytime I meet somebody or I know somebody from a certain place, I put it
But you have
the
to pull up
description there.
you have to pull up their contact card to look at it.
No, it'll come up if you search that. It'll
Okay.
pull up everybody that has that in the
Well, I don't know if you had
description.
like your list of names here, and you have like a tie POF
Yeah.
that you were just off just seeing the entry in here, you would know where you know them from.
Yes. Yes. That's the way it's displayed. So like like if I looked up your name, it would say RHAP underneath.
Jason RHAP, do not respond. Do not pick up. I can't even
Just
see
hiding
that.
your number, but you see how it says RHAP?
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
I literally have I have Rob's number. I have Rob RHAP as the as
Oh,
this
as the
descriptor.
name.
Can you
All
see
right.
it? No, you probably can't.
Oh, it's blurry,
It's
but
blurry.
yeah.
It's just Rob RHAP as the first and last name. Rob RHAP.
How will you know it's Sister Nino?
Well, that's the only Rob RHAP that's that we
Anyway,
have.
so anyway, I mean, Ty was a failed date for her.
Yes.
She if you ask Lori why didn't it work out? That white shirt. That
That white
white
shirt was
shirt.
it.
That
Telling
was
you.
it. That was enough. She does go on another date with a guy named Martin. He's 55, never been married, 3
Poor
kids.
Martin.
They go and make candles. And the candle maker at one point goes, "All right, say hi to each other or whatever." She's like, "Talk to each other like y'all are strangers." She's like, "Well, we are strangers." He said, "I've seen you before." What?
Uh-oh.
Okay, why would you mention that? Find out, or come to find out, they both go to the same church, which is a small world because I actually know somebody who goes to that church or who has before.
In Atlanta?
Mhm.
So it's like a mega church type of deal?
I think so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Martin is 55, 3 kids, never married.
Yeah.
This man's out here just dispersing his seed to anyone.
He's just hanging out.
Yep.
So yeah, this was interesting because I thought the date wasn't going well. I just felt
Yeah.
like it was kind of just like, oh, whatever. She was like, oh, there's no chemistry. I thought she would say there was no chemistry, but then she mentions, oh yeah, I'm having my birthday party tomorrow. He's like, oh, I would I'd love to come. She's like, oh, you should come. Wait, what? How did we
Martin,
get here?
Martin, my boy, my man, read the room, my dude. Read
Yes.
the room. This isn't going great. Don't invite yourself to a party that you're
You
to
will
this.
know no one.
Yeah, what are you doing? She's like, how would you even think this is a good idea to invite yourself? And of course, she has to say yes.
Yeah.
She can't say no at that point.
But then when he goes to the party, he's treating it like a second date.
Yeah,
And it's like, Martin, she needs to entertain.
yeah. Like he goes up to her like, hey, do you think we could go somewhere more intimate, more private, so that you can
Like
look
some
me,
more like
you can-
me and you.
so you can look me in the eye, sir? Like, who do you think you are? You are a random first date I met on this dating show. Like, I don't know you. I'm not gonna go to the other room, to the quiet room, so we can have a talk about nothing like we did last
Right.
time. Like, sir, who do you think
Yeah,
you
that
are
was weird.
with your man purse? Like, get out of here.
Then after that, he just lingered because he doesn't know anybody at this
Yeah,
party because he knows the host.
he stuck to her like I stuck to you at RHAP events up until recently, where you were a celebrity. He was just like on her side all the whole time, just looking
It's
awkward.
like you are not her date to this birthday
No,
party.
just looking awkward with everybody trying to take her picture. Like,
Mhm.
he's just in the background. Like, I'm
And they're gonna
surprised
be like, "Who is that man?" That was
I'm
there's
surprised
a
he didn't get a
man.
bunch of like, can you take this picture? Can you hold this camera for me?
Right.
Like I did at RHAP events. Can you take a picture of us? Sure.
Oh, so I was just like, that invite should have never happened. It should have
No.
been like, oh, I would love to come. Oh no, I think it's a little early. Like I would love to keep getting to know you in different settings.
That's tough to do though. Like
That's my birthday.
it's tough to turn down someone like that. That would have been. I mean, it's her bad for mentioning it in the first place. Like,
No, I would immediately think, especially in this situation where she just met him one date, doesn't know that much about him. She's gonna have to be like babysitting.
Yes, like for sure. I'm sure she realized immediately after she said that, and he invited himself. She's like, "This is gonna suck. This is gonna be terrible." Like at
Yeah.
least he had the wherewithal to like dip out after a certain amount of time. After he realized what the situation was, he did dip out early. She was like, "Oh, are you leaving? Too
Right.
bad. Bye."
Yeah. So somebody who wasn't at the party, who she was hoping was Felton, he missed her birthday party. But then he reaches out to her like on FaceTime, "Hey, sorry I missed it, but I'm in Atlanta. I want to take you out to dinner, I want to take you out on a dinner date because I missed your party."
So they really strung this out for the whole series. The whole time we've known Lori,
Mysterious Felton.
they've strung out the Felton thing. Like, does he like her? Does he not? We even get her like asking him to come to the party, and we don't even get an answer. He's like, like honestly, I could tell when we on the interactions with Felton that Felton was not feeling this. Like,
Mhm.
could you tell? Like, it was just like the interactions they had were
I
just like,
only finally could tell when they had dinner.
no, I mean, because even like before that, when they were at whatever event they were at, that he was just kind of like being nice to her to be nice to
Mhm.
her, like because she was being nice. I could kind of tell that, and then we get the part where she invites him. He's like, and we never really get a concrete answer there. And
Yeah.
then, and then he invites her to the dinner. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll get somewhere. But then what happens happens.
Right. So yeah, on this dinner date, she's like, "So, I like you. Okay? So, what's happening?" He's like, "Oh, like what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, like is there romance or something?" He's like, "Well, I'd never really thought about us romantically." He's like, I slide into your DMs when we talk about like when we're talking about your events."
He's like, I slide to your DMs when I can get something out of you. like like when I can come to one of your events or I can be on a Netflix television show, that's when I will contact you. We can get together. It
And
almost
then
it felt like Felton was like trying to promote something, but we
it
couldn't
didn't
get his
quite
promotion
make the
in.
cut, so
Yeah, it didn't make the
we're
cut.
still in the dark. Also tells her like he's like, "Yeah, you do always say how you feel, and sometimes it's not the time and the place."
He tells her like in the same sentence, he's like, "Yeah, you have walls up." He's like, "Also, you talk like you say, you
You
talk about
talk
your
too much.
feelings
Yeah.
when you don't need to be. Like, so which is it? Does she have walls up, or is she talking about her feelings all the time, sir?"
He's like, "I don't know. I just this is I'm not trying to do anything right now."
It's like, now I don't like you, Felton.
So
I was willing to like you, and now I don't like you because you're mean to Miss Lori.
right. I know. And I'm like, "You rich Auntie Lori, you are that girl. You don't need to be chasing nobody." Okay?
Rich Auntie Aysha. I mean, Rich Auntie Lori. Know your worth. Know your light. Don't bow down for anybody. Be
Right.
you. Be
Hey,
comfortable in the you.
32 is not too old to be called auntie either because I just saw something today about how Kyrie Irving is 32 and people in the league call him Unc because he's been in the league for like 14 years.
Mhm.
So,
Listen, Auntie Lori is that fun relative at any function who's gonna cut up with you, who's gonna play spades with you, who's gonna just
mhm.
chat your ear off, whether you want it or not. She is an integral part of the kickback, of the of the
Yes,
barbecue, of the cookout, of the whatever. So that's someone who you definitely want in your corner.
yes, exactly. And so I wish her all the best. Did they give any updates on her present day?
Yeah, she says she and Felton are great friends. They talk 3 times a week. But there's nothing. She says she's single as a dollar bill. So that's where we are with Lori. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, like I like how I felt like Logan's advice to her. She had a lot of advice for her. She was like almost like don't be so like straightforward. But then at the end, Lori's like, no, I'm just gonna ask him if he's into me or not. And
Yeah.
like that's what she did. She's like, I'm just gonna ask him, like, so you into me or what? Like, what
Sometimes
is
with
this?
him going like not being direct and going all around when I'm asking questions.
Yeah, she's like, what is this? Like he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really see this as a romantic sense. Felton is another Ikechi clone to me who thinks he's probably so deep and he's got the stupid little hat on. He's got the probably thinks
Mhm.
he's so cool, so deep. There's probably nothing really behind that.
Right.
Um, I mean,
And
listen
and
to me just shitting on Felton. I'm sorry, Felton. I don't really know you. I don't know why I
right.
said that. You made me mad because you dissed my Aunt Lori.
Right, that's it. And because we are not revisiting any type of ranking about dating apps, I will say the number one app, in my opinion, is Hinge.
Okay.
Just put it out there,
There you have it, folks.
and I'm not talking about any other dating app.
So yeah, rich Auntie Lori, who we love. That
Yes.
was her. Next up,
Yes.
let's talk about everyone's favorite flower child, everyone's favorite wild child, Miss Pam. Pam, this lady was a
Oof.
trip. She so we kind of start with her. We meet her. She is 70 years old. Is she our oldest participant? Where are we at?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She is our oldest participant. She lives out in the boonies. She lives out in very rural, very rural Atlanta, out in the farm. She's kind of lost touch with the world in a way. She has been married twice. She's been single 15 years. She lives with her granddaughter Zoe, who she took custody of when she was in the 6th grade. She was 22 years old. She had a rock star boyfriend, and that ended up being her baby daddy that she had with Zoe. Someone's done research on Zoe and her rock star boyfriend. He's actually pretty up there, pretty famous. Not
Who is it?
I don't know the name, but it's not someone that you would immediately recognize. But it's like a rock star that rock stars know, right? It's like not someone that you would easily recognize, but so yeah, she and Zoe are tight, are close. She's taking care of Zoe since she was a kid. Yeah, so she lives in Atlanta. She's talking to her birds when Logan arrives. We find out that Pam used to be a flight attendant. She has a very eclectic house. She's got stuff from all over the world, from famous rock stars, stuff that people have signed and everything. She's got like a shrine to her dead husband, her dead baby daddy, and also her second husband who she married, who also died. So there's a lot of history going on in the house. That's going to be a theme for Pam throughout the series. It's for Pam to kind of let go of the past and to kind of move forward into the future. Pam just wants someone that they can put up with each other. Pam is very like uneasy and fidgety throughout the whole first time meeting. You can tell she's not comfortable with this at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we get Pam's first date.
Oof.
Pam's first date is with Robert. He is 65 years old, divorced twice. And you can tell why when we meet Robert. Robert is very ornery. Robert looks like the
I think I disagree. I don't think we can
okay.
tell why.
Okay, go ahead. Give me your thesis.
No, I just feel like he was taking in the person sitting across from him. That's why I
but
said
what?
I would love to see him with the Sherry from who went on the other date with Greg, because it seemed like he was just kind of like, what is happening?
I mean, but when Pam comes up and he's like, "Yeah, I've been waiting here impatiently," I'm like, sir, like, excuse me, like
I feel
you
like
started like a dick.
I could have I think, and maybe I have this all wrong, but I just got dry sense of humor from him.
I don't know. I can see where you would see that, but to me, it just felt very rude, very very sassy. I would say he's a very sassy gentleman. He kind of looks like what you would the real life version of, like, you know, when you see those cartoons and the worm comes out of the apple and he's got like glasses like that. That's what I see Robert as. He's a real life manifestation of that cartoon worm that comes out of an apple. She goes a little more of her history. She just retired 2 months ago from being a flight attendant. She was I guess a personal flight attendant on Warren Buffett's NetJets. She's like, I shouldn't be talking about some of this stuff because I signed the
Right.
NDA. Like, I should not be talking about this. And she basically goes off about herself this whole time. We get the time lapse and everything of her keep talking. We got to get into, like, Pam is the relative at the function that is going to spew about conspiracy theories. She's going to talk about the Illuminati. She's going to do this and that. At some point, you're going to have to carry her out of the function because she's probably so drunk she can't even drive home. So Pam is a hoot and a half. And Robert, he's pretty fed up with this. He's like, you have not asked me a single thing about myself. You know nothing about me. Go ahead. Like, what is it you think I want? She has no idea. He's like, you don't ask me any questions about me. And that pretty much just deads it right there. Robert's pretty much just like, you know what? Actually, I just know it's the time. I
I
gotta
actually forgot
go.
I was late for something.
I gotta go. Pam calls Logan like, well, didn't go great. Didn't go great. Wasn't fantastic. We get a second date for Pam. This is Paul, 62 years old. He's never been married, never had any kids. He's a singer, songwriter, truly a single guy that has no ties to anything. I think one of our only people that's never been married, never had kids. Uh, the strategy for Pam now that Logan has given her is to talk less, slow down. I think she was the one that says, be interested and not interesting. Like,
great advice for
yes,
Pam.
love that. So Paul and Pam chatted up. They seem to really be getting along together. They have things in common. He's a singer songwriter. She's been in the music biz or been related to the music biz for a long time. They both have military backgrounds. I think she's a military brat. He was in the Navy, or actually, I think they were both in the Navy. I'm not sure, but this goes pretty well. He pretty much asked her, like, would you go on a second date? She's like, yeah, I think I'll go on a second date. He gets her number. She kisses him, which kind of took him aback. He was like, whoa. It's like, okay,
right.
Cool. I'll take it. But that was surprising.
I was shocked that she went ahead and went in for the kiss. I was just like, oh, like she was really feeling that date.
Yeah, but shortly after the date, we hear that things between her and Paul are not clicking, not going on. Paul does not. She at first is like, Paul just seems like he's more into himself. He's not really in about me. And when we get really down to it, she's like, well, he said that he's going to be out of town, so he just kind of blew me off. And her granddad was like, well, that's not really a blowing off. It's kind of like he has things to do, so maybe give him a shot. This is where it kind of comes out where Pam is one to push people away before she can be pushed away. She'll cut something off before she can be cut. Yeah. So that's something that she really has to work on. Her granddaughter encourages her to reach out. She even helps grandma craft a message to Paul. This was so savage. They looked up Paul's TikTok. They looked up Paul singing, and they were just like, that's what he's doing. That's Paul singing. Not great. That was kind of weird, but okay, whatever. But things with Paul don't really go anywhere. He keeps saying he's busy. He's not going to chase him if he doesn't want to be chased. He seems more interested in himself than her. So Paul is out.
Yeah.
We get a third date with Dwight. Dwight is 70 years old, never married, one kid. He is a tour director. And we find out that he runs this kind of like tourism thing in Atlanta where he drives people around and shows them the sights of Atlanta. She comes to this date very confident. She has no expectations. She meets up with Dwight. They have a bunch of small talk. That's really what a lot of these dates were. A lot of small talk. Where when these people come out of these dates like so enamored, I'm like, but why? You got to really even do or say anything. But that's beside the point. A lot of small talk, and this kind of turns into a job interview in a way. Where Dwight tells her about his company. She's like, yeah, I could actually help you. I know a lot of stuff about Atlanta. I could be part of your tours. Like, y'all are supposed to be on a date. Like, this is a job interview.
But when she later describes it, she's just like, it was very clear that we just weren't each other's type. So she was just like, let's just do something else with this.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like they came out of this. And it seemed like she was liking him at first. Like, they exchanged numbers. She says she's feeling young again. But like, to me, I was just like, it didn't seem like y'all had any romantic chemistry. Y'all just talked about teaming up together for a business opportunity. That's what it seemed like.
I think any date is better than the date that she had with
Robert. Yeah, we get the debrief later. She hasn't really heard from him. She's going to reach out to him, which is kind of unlike her because she doesn't usually make that move. But she's trying to be more unlike herself. She's trying to get more out of her comfort zone. She's going to contact him. She says, worst case scenario, we'll be great friends, and she'll have someone that can show her Atlanta. Pretty much the ending of this Pam story is she is teaming up with Dwight to help him with his business. But like you said, she just sees friendship, and that's pretty much it. She's looking forward to the future, wants to meet the right someone, and wants to take advantage of every moment of life. The update is she's not helping Dwight with his tours anymore, but she does talk to him on occasion. But she's waiting for Liam Neeson to call her. Okay,
Now,
cool.
Pam.
I wonder how that Dwight relationship ended. Like, I feel like Pam would get mad and like set one of his buses on fire or something like it, and
Oh
that's how
my
that
god.
relationship ended.
Yeah, I mean, it just was very clear they weren't for each other.
I don't know. Pam seems like she would be happier alone. Like, I don't know what it is.
Well, if you saw her two ex-boyfriends or ex-husbands, they were like, well, I guess the first one was a rock star or the second one. And
Yeah,
it was
first one.
like, yeah, she needs somebody who's just like,
That can match her energy for
yes,
sure because
yes.
she has this very youthful energy. She has this very
Mhm.
like playful, youthful style about her. So yeah, she would need someone that can keep up with her, and so it might not be someone that's exactly her age, or it may have to be someone that is as energetic at her age as she
Yeah.
is.
Well, that's it for Pam.
Bye,
Good luck,
Pam.
Pam. uh Second to last, we have Suzanne. We saw a lot of Suzanne's story. Um
Yeah,
and
Suzanne
so
was definitely a star of
yes.
this series. One,
Yes.
I think Suzanne and Anise were the two big stars that came out of this
Right. Yes, for sure. Because they're two big personalities.
for sure.
Suzanne is 63. She is a widow, and the person that is accompanying her throughout this whole journey is her daughter Allison. She has a very specific criteria of what she wants and doesn't
Extremely.
want. Like, I don't want you. She doesn't want them to have a pot belly. She needs good teeth, physically fit, nice feet, good hygiene. She needs a silver fox. That's even though she named that one of the last ones, that's like top for her. Is that's what she's
Mhm.
looking for, is a silver fox. Her dogs
I
were
I
just such
knew you were
joys
gonna. I knew
to
that was the
see.
first thing you were gonna point out. I knew it. Are they the same? Are they the same like breed as Pepper Cinnamon? Like they looked
Well,
very
they looked
similar.
like they might be Malteses, because Pepper and Cinnamon are Maltese, Shih Tzu, and Poodle, and so she had a Doodle, and she had those two little that they may be Maltese. I don't know. There's a variety of dogs that are like little white dogs, and they had pink ears. It
Oh
was
boy.
just so cute. But they were in every scene. Like somewhere you would see one of the three
Again,
dogs.
I can see Asia in in Suzanne for sure.
Right.
She's got multiple houses. She's just obviously rich. Like dogs all over the place.
Um, so when she was married, she was married for 27 years. So she's in this place now. She's looking for her Matthew McConaughey. And they also need to love dogs. So she goes on this first date with Frank. Frank is divorced. He's been single for 8 years. He has two kids. He's an attorney. Um, Frank is Frank is seems like a fun guy. Like Frank is like he's so attracted to her. He just seems like he's ready to like put himself out there. He does like college football, which she does need, but she said that he's a little short.
A little short. Like he is blown away by Suzanne when he sees. He's like, oh my god,
Yes.
like she is beautiful. She is so hot. She's so fine. Like you've never seen an old man get that attracted to anybody in their life. But Suzanne's like, he's all right.
Right. Another thing for her with him was that his kids are teenagers, and she's like, I don't want to be raising children.
That would 1,000% be a deal breaker for me if I was
Yeah.
in a situation. Like I am beyond done raising children. I don't want to be raising any more kids. That would be a no for me off top.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's a great point. I don't know why I can see that more than the 30-year-olds living there. I don't know. I'm just thinking you're adults. Like I would think they're less involved in their moms, like because I'm thinking of Lisa with Nate.
Yeah.
But yeah, with raising teenagers when you've already like you've gone through that already and you are 63 and not thinking about doing that again. But I feel like they had great chemistry. It seemed like things were going well. Like he kissed her on the cheek and she was like, behave. So they were being flirty. And then he was so caught off guard when her daughter came to pick her up. He forgot to ask for her number. He's
That's
like,
kind
oh
of weird,
shoot.
right? Suzanne's
Yeah.
like, my daughter's gonna come pick me up, so get ready to meet my daughter. Like, oh, like I didn't realize that was
First
happening.
date. Yeah.
Yeah,
But then after the date, it felt like the date went fine. After the date, he follows her on Facebook or like adds her on Facebook.
Frank ain't giving up. Frank is like,
Yeah.
I'm not letting this get away from me. Boy, let me tell you, he finds her on Facebook. Of course, he finds her on Facebook. Of course, it has
Yes.
to be Facebook with this crowd. And yeah, he's like, hey, girl, what's up? Been stalking you.
Right.
You got mutual friends. Like, let's go, let's do this. Like,
But
okay,
for
Frank.
her, it was just
It's giving needy, Frank. It's giving needy. Okay, you got to back it up a little bit. Okay.
she also, so not only did she, feel he was a little short, she didn't want to raise children again. Another thing was that kind of threw her off was that Frank had mentioned that he likes younger women. And so she kind
Mhm.
of was like, well, I'm not younger. We're the same age. So does that mean like he's more attracted to younger women? And she's like, obviously he's into younger women. He has teenagers.
Yeah.
So I was like, that did make sense.
Yeah, I can
So
definitely see why she was not that into Frank.
yeah, so that was a fail. But then with the second date, we meet Avery. He's 59. He's divorced. He's been single for 10 years. His 3 kids, financial advisor. The worst thing about him, in Suzanne's opinion, is that he is an Alabama fan because
Yeah,
she is a hardcore Georgia Bulldog fan. And you
hardcore.
can't tell her otherwise.
She comes into this saying that is a deal breaker. She says it
Yes.
many times during
Yes.
the season. This is a deal breaker. If he does not like Georgia Bulldogs, I cannot date him. I cannot talk to him. I cannot conversate with this person if they are not a Georgia Bulldog fan.
But it was just their date was natural chemistry. Like they
Yes.
weren't, because she got this advice that to act like forget the small talk and act like you're continuing something. Like, oh, I was
Mhm.
listening to a podcast with
Yeah,
Matthew
because she
McConaughey.
went into the date with Frank because Frank was trying to basically introduce himself, and she interrupted him. Was like, "Hey, have you heard about this podcast?" Like I did to you in the opening for
You're
our
right.
podcast. That was one of the funnier moments. Yeah, so like she has this Matthew McConaughey podcast line just tucked in her back pocket that she like she's gonna decide to use for every date she's in.
Yes, exactly. And so she didn't like that's her, yeah, that's still her go-to in this date, but it didn't feel like there had to be she didn't have to pull it out right away. It was just this natural chemistry. It felt like she was also thrown off that he didn't get her roses, but she did think he was handsome. And by the end of it, she felt like she just scratched the surface. She wanted more.
Have you ever watched the show Reba?
No.
This man looked exactly like the guy on Reba, who is the ex-husband of Reba, who's kind of like he kind of sucks. He looks like
Mhm.
that guy. So it's like I could not get that out of my mind. And also, like, I for some like maybe it's because he looks like that dad from Reba who sucks. I just did not trust Avery. I was just like, Avery's got something weird going on. I feel like
I liked him for her. I, I I don't know. I mean, I could see how you could see that,
yeah.
but he was very smooth. Like he knew the right way to banter with her.
That's
It-
maybe why it felt like too like are you trying to get her money? Like is that what you're doing? Like is that part of it? Like you're trying to get into the will real quick, trying to slide in at the end? Like
he can't just be a good guy.
it can, but my pessimistic way will not allow me to think of that. Okay.
Yeah, so they go on their second date. They go to a Georgia game. He even like puts a Georgia sticker on his face.
So what he's telling me is he's not a real Alabama fan. Because a real Alabama fan would not have done that. Come on.
No. Well, he didn't go to Alabama. I think if he went to Alabama, that would have been a different story.
Doesn't matter. He's from Alabama. He calls himself an Alabama fan. That's like me putting on a Steelers jersey for a date to be like, all right, I'll wear a Steelers jersey and go to the Steelers game. I would never do that. Never. I wouldn't do that for my wife now if she asked me to. Wouldn't do it. A Raven ride or die. Okay.
Look, he was trying to do whatever he could to get
To
in
get into that will.
Suzanne's
To
good
get into
graces.
that will. To get into Suzanne's
No.
will. You can say it.
No.
Be with me.
So I really liked them, and they even kissed at the end of the date, which was like, okay, things are going well.
I
But
mean, he like they had obviously had a lot to drink
mhm.
during the game, and Avery was getting like real intimate, real handsy.
Yeah.
He was basically chasing her for a kiss at the end of the night. Uh, she ended up kind of giving it to him, but you could tell she was just kind of like, "Whoa, like this is a little much."
Yeah. So after that is when she realized, like, whoa, we are going too fast. I think we need to pump the brakes. And so it made her like chill on Avery for a little bit. And she goes on another date with Jeff. He's 59, divorced, 10-year single, 3 kids. And this man, she was almost going to have to pull out another podcast recommendation because he had nothing to say. He
Nothing.
was so quiet.
Yes. And she really likes him. He is a Georgia Bulldog fan, which she is over the moon about. But I think when he did speak, they were able to relate on some things. Like they had both spent time in Italy. Uh, they were both spent time in Saudi Arabia. He knew some of the language that she had known. So I think they were able to relate on some of those things, which is why it went so well for her. Right? She says that he has class and sophistication, as basically like as opposed to Avery, who doesn't have those things. This man has class and sophistication. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
She loved that he was a silver fox. She
Like
was like,
if
"That's
you look at Suzanne and Jeff, you would think they belong together.
yeah, exactly." I think if you looked at them without getting her full personality, yes, I would think
Yeah.
so. But because we know her personality at this point, I was like, "Oh, he's too boring for her," especially after seeing the fun she had with Avery.
Yep.
And the fact that she went on a second date with Jeff, I said, "Girl,
She was really trying to convince herself that
yeah,
Jeff was the
this
one
is
because
it."
yeah. She's like, well, she's like, maybe I need someone more calmer to kind of ground me. She was really
Right.
trying to convince
Yeah.
herself that's what she needed.
Opposites do attract.
Yeah.
But it clearly did not work with Jeff. And she goes back to Avery, and Avery's kind of like, well, what was it that kind of turned you off from me?
He did to her what she did to him. He interrupted her like, hey, before you keep talking, before you bring up some other Matthew McConaughey podcast, why didn't you like me?
Right.
Like, whoa, okay, all
And
right,
she's
Avery.
like, well,
But
life happens.
I like how they added mystery to this series because for this and for the Nate decision,
Yeah.
it was like, who is she gonna pick? Who is she calling? Who is she inviting over? Because
Yeah. That
we just
was
see her on the
good.
phone to someone like, hey, can you come over? Because she tells us basically it's between Avery and Jeff. And we get the phone
Mm-hmm.
call like, hey, come on over. And then the last minute we see, well, they did it to us twice because she calls someone for a second date. We're like, who is she getting a second date or another date? Like, oh my God, it's Jeff. Well, that'll be Avery. And then later, she's like, well, maybe I want to change my mind again. And then she invites Avery over. Like, get damn girl, make a decision.
I'm
Stick
sorry, we
with it.
about to see Frank.
Listen,
um,
Suzanne had these boys in a blender. Like, she
yeah.
was the belle of the ball. She had 3 dudes chasing after her.
So thankfully it worked out with Avery. We got a 2-month later update that her and Avery were thriving. She said they just had to slow down. That's all she needed for them was to slow down. And now they are, and he knows, he's like, I know the worst thing about me is that I'm an Alabama fan. So, and that was her only issue.
So great. That's such a great ending to that story. You see that nice bubble that you created?
Oh
Like,
no,
let me pop that bubble. Pop.
please. What happened?
Update time. They dated briefly after filming, and they recently reconnected, but are not an item. They are both dating other people, not exclusively though. So they're both kind of playing the field, but they're not officially going out.
What happened?
We don't know.
God dang it.
Love is dead. Love is dead.
Really? Okay. Well, Suzanne was fun to watch because she was full of energy, and she was all about this. She said, "I'm going to fully date. I'm going to give it my best." Dang. Well. Oh well.
Yeah, I think Suzanne was the one that probably came into this the most like open and the most like ready to do this because even the deal breakers she said were deal breakers ended up being not deal breakers at the end because she ended the show with Avery, who is an Alabama fan.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. Last but certainly not least.
Certainly not least.
According to you.
Oh, the one, the only Anise Patrice.
Anise Patricia.
Anise Patricia. Anise, 62 years old, has been married 3 times. That's interesting. She's been single 20 years. We don't get much about the other 2 divorces. We
Mm-hmm.
do know that her first husband unfortunately died in what seemed to be a work accident,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the father of her children. We meet
And
one,
was her high school sweetheart.
and was her high school sweetheart. We meet one child. Help me with the name again.
It's
Dewanya.
or I thought it was like Dwayna,
No,
De, Dewanye.
Dewanya. What did say her
It
daughter?
was Dwayna. Dwayna.
Dewayna. None of that sounds right. Um,
Yeah.
we just call
Her
her
daughter.
daughter. So her daughter is there with her throughout this whole journey. And let me tell you, like I said earlier, you give me a whole Anise and her daughter's show because every time they were on screen together, it was a laugh riot.
It
It
was a
was
hoot.
fantastic. It was so
Yes.
fun. Um, we get introduced to them. They're having champagne. They're chilling. Her daughter says it's kind of awkward talking about what turns my mom on because they're having all these like different confessionals about what she sees in a man or whatever. Uh, we meet with Logan. She tells her whole story. She talks about how she gave her husband so much of her potential that she had to wait until after he passed to go to college. But now she's now has her doctorate. She is a big wig in marketing. She is someone that is super super accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how
Yeah.
she talked about it. She's like, when I meet my husband at the pearly gates, I want him to be proud of how I raised our children. I was like, oh gosh,
Sweet.
yeah.
She is a true romantic at heart. I can tell that from just like how she approaches the dates. Um, and it's just like she just wants love.
Yeah, she talks about how she's been told that she self-sabotages relationships and others seem intimidated by her and her accomplishments. And it makes her diminish her light at times because people can't deal with it. Logan encourages her to be upfront about it in the beginning of the relationship so that she knows upfront whether or not they can handle it or not. Now, this seems very like, if you're here because of maths, this seems like an older version of right now. Like that's what this feels like. So we get her first date. Her first date is with
Woo.
George, 60 years old. I think you can say this is probably the worst date we saw of all the dates.
Of all 8 episodes.
Yes, because we meet George, and at first, George seems like a nice old man. He's been married and divorced 2 times. He's a retired nuclear engineer, 60 years old. When she walks in the door, the sigh, the moan this man let out, he was like, oh, like something happened with George in that moment. Um, she says, she likes the look of him. He seems nice. She says, but he is a little short for her. She tells him up front. She says, "Listen, I'm in marketing. I have my doctorate." She says, "I'm adventurous." She says, "I've climbed Stone Mountain." George, George, oh, I like what I see. You my type of beautiful. It's like, okay. He says, they look at him. He's like, this is newfangled. This man said newfangled. He actually said the word that people make fun of people for saying. This newfangled menu with a QR code. You got to look it up on your phone. So good. She asked him about his life. He says, I have one son that I know of.
Right.
She tells him that she has 3 kids. He says, by the same daddy.
He leans, I kid you not, leans in.
Oh my
Same daddy.
gosh. By the same daddy.
And
She
she's
is
like, wait, what?
she is obviously taken aback by that. She's like, did you just ask me that? They bring bread to the table. And she is going to go for the bread. He says, no bread. He looks at her and says, I'm looking out for you by not having the bread. By you not having the bread. Like, oh, wow. That's
The
quite something.
absolute worst. This is the Love is Blind cutie situation all over again.
Yes. She tells him, like, listen, I am older than you. I'm 62 years old. Like, do you have a problem with that? He asks her, oh, have you had any work done? Sir, this man.
And now we know why. Like that for sure. We know why he's single. He's showing it every
We know
step.
why he's been divorced twice. How did anyone actually marry this man? He talks about his life. He says, yeah, I'll fuck around in Atlanta.
He said, I live in Chattanooga, but
I F around in Atlanta. And he's like, wait, well, I'm sorry. I date around Atlanta. It's
It's
like,
like,
what?
who? First of all, who's talking like that to somebody they just met? Not even someone they just met. A potential love interest.
This man has all of the nerve, all of the unmitigated gall. This man has it all. He he says, you look like you get a little ghetto. just by your appearance, I'm just saying. He's like, you got any blonde wigs to complete the look? What? Rightfully so. Anise excuses herself. And it's like, you know what? Actually, my Uber's outside. I gotta take off.
Well, first she goes to the bathroom to call the Uber, and
Yeah.
he just stares at her as she walks out. And when
Shivers.
she comes back, he said, "I liked watching you walk out."
Oh my gosh. So terrible. That was just
It was
terrible.
so bad.
That might be the worst date I've ever seen. I don't know. We've seen some pretty bad dates in our Married at First Sight history.
Ooh.
This was real bad.
I'm like,
But
this is
she,
him at 60. I can't imagine what he was like at 30.
oh God, but she got herself out of there, rightfully so.
Yes.
We get the debrief. She's talking to her daughter about the date, and the daughter gets extremely offended.
He
She's
also
like,
had the nerve to say that the night was young, as if he didn't want the date to end.
"Oh my God!" He's
Get
like,
out
well,
of
"What do
here.
you mean you got to go? A night's young." So the daughter gets debriefed about the date. She's like, "Oh, I didn't like him before, but I definitely don't like him now." Judging my wig, talking about the blonde wig is
Yeah.
ghetto. She's I had blonde wigs. We then get the Nate and Anise date, and we kind of already talked about that and how that went. She says she liked Nate, but him not being active is a pretty big deal breaker for her.
Yeah, I didn't like him for her.
Nah, he says he texted me, but I didn't text him back. She goes to that man. So yeah, we get the third date. The third date is with Bill, 57. He is divorced twice, has 2 kids. Now, before we actually got to the date, she did find out that her date is with a white man, and she is very kind of taken aback by that. She has never dated interracially. That the little exchange she had with her daughter of like, hey, I remember when you were a child, you dated that little white boy. And I told you had this little fling, but you better bring me home some black babies. I was like, oh, okay.
As a little, the perspective she had on this was very interesting, because she's like, when she was younger, she would have never, like, she didn't date interracially, but now that having kids is not an option, now she's like, okay, that changes things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so for her, like, the thing about dating interracially is like if not having mixed kids or having like black kids, I guess like fully black, and I don't even want to say fully black, but just like because you're
you're digging yourself a grave.
I know, like, even if you're mixed, you're black. So it was very interesting. So I was like, okay, so that's what she's caught up on, is just the children of it all.
Yeah, because I mean, she did kind of have some self-reflection about what she told her daughter, and how she realizes that that was kind of a wrong thing for her to say and to do at the time. She's now reflecting on that.
Absolutely.
So she does meet up with Bill. He's an English chap. He's an English gentleman, which is very interesting. So they actually really kind of hit it off to begin with. He talks a little bit about how it was like living in England and all this stuff. And because she's so freaked out about this interracial dating, she assumes that Bill's in the same boat as she is in. She's like, so how you feel about dating a black person? Kind of weird, huh? He's like, well, actually, I date exclusively black women, I'll have you know. So this man only dates black women. And this, if she wasn't freaked out before, she's freaked out now. She's like, oh, it's like, I didn't even know. Basically, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing that happened.
Basically what she's saying. And then he goes on to say, so obviously my children are biracial.
She's like, what?
Yeah.
Mind blown. You chose to do that? You did that on purpose? You didn't have children with a white lady and then just date black people? Like, you actually on purpose created interracial children? What were you thinking? Anise, not a fantastic look for Anise. Anise
I
batting a
think
thousand on everything else. This was like a little like, I
this
don't
was
know.
her flaw for
Yeah,
sure. Because
yeah,
and what it and you know what it is like we look at her, we don't see 62.
yeah.
But this mindset about dating interracially is like giving 62.
It's given okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Um, in confessional, he does say, they actually align on so many different things, but this whole development of her being freaked out that he's dated black women exclusively is kind of a red flag for him. So it's not great for him. She, on her part, says she kind of likes him. Like she would be willing to go out with him again, but he's just like, there's no spark here. Like things are good on paper, but there's no spark there.
That was wild to me that he was this full stop. They're like, wait. You've never dated interracially before?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to take a step back
I'm at
because
because I
I
mean,
only date black
but
women.
but I don't blame him though, right? Because
Right?
if
No,
it feels
yeah.
like the way that she reacted, that their whole relationship, she would be
L-
questioning
yes.
everything about it. Like if you're someone that's new to interracial dating, especially at their big boy and girl ages, like you don't got time for that.
Yes, exactly. Because he's gonna want to have a relationship, and hers is going to be like on her end, it's going to be a constantly learning what it's like to be in this proximity
Yeah,
with a white man.
yeah, he don't have time to be navigating all that stuff. So basically, he kind of cuts that one off because she says she would be into it, but she doesn't think he would be into it because of the interracial issue.
Yeah.
We go over the date with Logan, and Logan kind of tells her like from what I've seen of you, you seem very guarded. Like you have you feel this need to be strong, but you're gonna have to kind of let people in order to do this. And they're doing this with Anise's daughter, and Anise is like, that's interesting because I've only kind of seen her as this really like kind of strong like person that doesn't really need that advice you're giving. And Anise opens up and she's like, yeah, my kids have only seen me one way. They won't allow me to be soft. They won't allow me to be anything other than what they see me as. She gets kind of emotional talking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
because the day that their dad died, I was the only person there for them and I had to be that rock for them. And her daughter's really kind of touched by this. She's like, wow, like I'd never seen it that way. This is like a groundbreaking moment for Anise and her daughter. She's like, I can see what you're saying. I can see how you might think that way, which is
Yeah.
really kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and it just goes to show like how these family dynamics have such an effect on who we are as people, because who they are as people is what Logan is trying to help prepare to be able to date.
Yeah,
So I thought these moments, like with even with all of the singles, were like really sweet.
yeah, for sure. So now we're going on a fourth date. Anise, did Anise get the most amount? No, Anise and Nate are tied for like 4 dates apiece, right? Like they had the most
Hmm.
dates.
Well, I think
Um,
Nate ended up getting 5, or like 4 people, but he went on 5 dates because
oh yes, yeah,
the
yeah.
second, yeah,
I
the
meant
fourth.
to say people.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, her fourth blind date is going to be is going to actually be picked by her daughter because the producers like give her daughter like I
Some
guess
options.
a lineup of guys to pick, and she picks this one person. She likes his look, so she's gonna pick him for her mom. Uh, Anise does not get to see who it is until she gets to the actual date. Anise gets to the date, and it is Willie.
Said,
Willie, her like everyone's jaw drops when they see her. Her jaw dropped for her when she saw him. Willie is 55. He's divorced twice. He's been single for 7 years. Has 5 children. Is a government canine specialist. Guessing that's dogs.
yes.
Um, yeah, like I said, she shows up and she is just wowed. She is gobsmacked. She cannot believe they found someone as attractive as she is, basically.
Right.
In a she says she felt a rush when she was walking towards him. Like she has not had this reaction to anyone else. So
No.
they get together, and you can tell right off the bat the spark, the chemistry
I
is
think we
there.
it's like we could actually see the spark. Like the little
Yes,
sparks were flying all beside them. I was like, "Oh, this
yeah,
is it."
yeah. She opens up to him. She's like, "I'm 62 years old," and she tells him, and I had like basically she almost describes the doctor as if she's telling him she has an STI. She's like, "I have to tell you something. It's gonna be hard for me. I don't want you to be freaked out, but I have a doctorate. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't want you to be intimidated, but I have a doctorate. And he's like,
Mhm.
wow. He's like, well, you're awesome. Like, you have a doctorate. Like, you are accomplished. He's like, that's like music to her ears. Like, oh my god, he's not intimidated. He's not gonna go off running. So they have a really great date. I put him on. This is kind of a connection, just kind of based off of lust, right? Like, this is just like a. They love how each other looks, and that's pretty
Oh
much
yeah, they're
the.
super attracted to each other.
Yeah, that's pretty much the culmination of this date. It was just like, wow, you are hot. You're hot too. Let's do hot things together. It's basically the thing. Like, as they're leaving, there's just like so much, like there's so much great energy there. I think it was great. So pretty much after the date, after with the debrief for the daughter, he checked all the boxes. Like, everything is there. Like, we're reading each other's eyes. I called him Big Willie. And the daughter's like, you called him Big Willie. Like, then we just get
Like,
a.
yeah, he was 6'3".
Yeah, we get a cascade of jokes about what Big Willie means. Like, she's like, you
Mhm.
know, Big Willie would refer to a man's genitals, right? She's like, oh my god, really? No. Like, I loved Anise discovering new things. Like, that
Right.
was so much fun.
Right.
Anise does say she's gonna let him take the lead because he seems like a very traditional type of guy, and that's what he would prefer, is to take the lead and to text her, to call about dates, all this stuff. So he's gonna let him do that. We do see a FaceTime with them. He FaceTimes her.
He is like, I don't know if he had just come from work or what, but he's fully dressed and
She's in bed. She's
in
chilling.
bed.
He FaceTimes. He's like, you remember when I called you Big Willie the other day? What did you think I was talking about? Is stuck on this Big Willie thing. He's like, I don't know. What did you want it to mean? Like, he's
Right.
like, he is so silky smooth. He's like, it'll be whatever you want it to be, girl. Um, we get another Logan meeting. And basically it's just more of just like a, she really likes him type of thing. She's pretty much telling Logan that she's pretty much told Logan, this is the guy, this is the man, this is the guy I want to go
Right,
out
so
with.
we need to figure out how to make it work with Willie.
Yes, Big Willie is the guy. So we get a second date with Anise and Willie, and he has only told her to dress comfortably, dress for activity. So they're actually going on a nature walk. The nature walk goes very well. They have chocolate
She
covered
says she loves to do
strawberries.
active things, so that's perfect for her.
Yep. They got chocolate covered strawberries. They're feeding each other stuff. They're doing some pretty heavy flirting. Uh, and they end up kissing. I don't even gonna call it kissing. They end up making out
They ended up making out.
in the middle of the forest, just sucking tongue, just all over each other.
They were waiting for that too, because I'm sure that could have happened on the first date.
They just didn't seem proper on the first date, so they're gonna wait till the second date. And she called him Big Willie again. He's like, we're gonna have to wait till the third date for that.
Right.
No
With no
cameras around.
cameras.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, like I got goosebumps. You see this? Ooh. The chemistry is all the charts. So that's pretty much the end for them. We get to 2 months later where they're still going strong. They're still dating. They're talking big talk. She's talking about he is the one. He's the man for her. Like, there's a lot of big talk going on about like how perfect of a relationship this is, and that's pretty much where the show ends. Now, gonna have to let you know they did date for 6 months, but then they broke up.
No. Why?
Anise,
6 months is such a long time.
yeah, Anise says they just didn't have enough in common. They're still.
Okay. That's why you were saying it was just physical.
Well, I mean, they didn't really talk about much during the dates. It was,
Yeah.
it was pretty much just like a you were hot, I'm hot, let's do hot stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, she says, but we're still friendly. She says, she's dating around. She has 2 or 3 suitors putting in applications, but nothing serious. So after all this, everyone's still single, basically.
What do we do this for?
We went through all this trouble, and we're right back where we left them. But they learned
Oh my
valuable life lessons that I'm sure they're still going to use in their future dating life. Sure. Because old people are known to learn new tricks.
Yes.
Old dogs and their new tricks, all that good
Dang
stuff.
it. Wait, so is she with anyone else right now? Did you say that?
She says there's 2 or 3 suitors who have put in applications. So she's apparently dating around and all that. I want to know more about her other marriages because we didn't really touch on anything. She's been married 3 times. So
Yeah.
she said 1 widowing and 2 divorces. I was very interested in what that was, what those relationships were like.
Yeah.
Give Anise her
Oh.
own show. I want that. But yeah, that's it's later daters.
Wow. Well, it was a fun watch. I definitely enjoyed it. They, like you said, those little segments we got in between all the dates and stuff. Like they had like talked about singles ads. They talked about text messages, first
Yeah,
kisses, sex,
pagers, beepers.
dating, what dating was like before texting, love languages.
It's basically like these people are old. Get it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a really cute show. If you manage to listen to all this and you still plan on going back and watching, do it. Why
Yeah,
not? It's only 8 episodes and they're not even all like it's not even 1 hour episodes. They're
yeah.
like
They average at
40
40
minutes or
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah,
40 minutes or less. So it was enjoyable. I liked it
yeah. I thought it was very fun. I would definitely watch a season 2 if they come out with season 2. Like
for sure.
it was a very easy, breezy, light show to
Beautiful
digest.
cover girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Later
Yeah.
Days. I had a fun time watching it.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Thank you for sticking with us to the end. Make sure you go subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed. Make sure you subscribe to the RHAP YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star rating and review or leave some comments on the YouTube video. And I also didn't mention up top, but we have a Facebook group. A perfect match podcast where we talk about married at first sight mostly. Sometimes love is blind. I'm sure there'll be some chatter about love, the later daters once we put this in there. But if you want to join the Facebook group, it requires a password. And this week, the password is Shiver Me Tenders
Perfect.
because Anise, she managed to say that. I kid you not, 20 times.
They named
He
an
makes me,
episode "Shiver Me
yeah,
Tenders."
he makes me shiver me tenders. So this week, that's the Facebook password. And we'll know that you came from this podcast. So thank you so much for sticking with us. Jason, where can people keep up with you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at JR33D. As far as podcasting goes, you can follow me on my podcast with Marissa Garza, The Good Pod, where we talk about the show The Good Wife and the Good Wife related properties. That's everywhere you can find me. Aysha, you would say this podcast went well, right?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So I'm just like, do you think we could take a selfie before this podcast is over? I just,
With my phone, I can get my phone.
hold on, I got my phone. Hold on. I got to figure out how to turn it around. Dang. Oh my gosh. How you turn this thing around? I'm so old. Hey, look at
Yay,
us.
we did it.
We got our selfie.
I was like, I guess he didn't get a selfie with Anise
Yes.
because they showed all his selfies at the end.
Gosh. That was
Uh,
so fun.
yes.
Freaking late.
Y'all can follow me at Aysha like Asia. It's AYSHA like ASIA on Instagram, Blue Sky. And yeah, I just post a lot of dog content mostly. The Spice Girls, Pepper and Cinnamon. um, but yeah, also if you are looking for a gift or a just because gift for someone or Valentine's Day is coming up, I am on Cameo, so you can go book a cameo with me if you want. So we will be back next week to talk about Married at First Sight. So if you want to hear more of our voices, we'll be talking about Married at First Sight episode 14. But by now, episode 13 is out. So make sure you go check that out. And yeah, hope you enjoyed our coverage of the later daters. Shiver me timber, shiver me tenders. Bye, y'all.